In this video, we're going to cover the right-click menu that exists in the Voxtree layer panel inside of 3DC printing. When you hover over a layer that you want to work on, you can right-click and choose from a range of different options that are available to you, and many of these are very important. So for example, if I have a lot of individual parts, then I can right-click and choose to show hidden volumes with a single click. When you have a lot of different visible objects, you can isolate them quickly by hovering over the layer that you want to isolate and then Alt-click the visibility icon. Now just the layer that you want to work on is visible. However, if you have dozens and dozens of individual objects that are hidden now, you would by default have to unhide each individual layer, and that's time consuming and tedious. So let's right click and choose show all hidden volumes. Now let's choose this text inset, and I want to make that a child layer of the base, because if I want to use the transform tool to move this inside the box so that it prints properly, then rather than having to transform one at a time, I can make one a child of the other so that when I choose the parent, it moves all of them. So let me demonstrate that. If I try to transform, you can see that's not what I want. So let's right click, choose change parent, and I can choose the text base. You'll see how it's now become a child layer. I can collapse or expand that, and then when I choose the parent layer, it'll move both. Let's go to an orthographic view and a front view. And I could move this into place, but another very important option that's available to us is the right-click menu, snap to ground. Very easy. At any point in time, if you want to make this independent of the parent, you can go to the right-hand side of the layer. When you see the little move icon, just click and drag, and now you can move it elsewhere. Okay, so I'll undo that. Now, let me hide that. And I want to show another very important option here that you're going to use quite often. Let me go back to perspective mode here. And I want to make this a voxel object. When I transform this object, I'm going to exaggerate it quite a bit. You'll notice at the very bottom in the status bar this red text indicating that the voxels are not uniform. This can be a problem later on, oftentimes when you're trying to perform certain operations. If the voxels are stretched, you're going to get some unwanted distortions or just undesirable results. You want to keep these uniform as much as possible and as often as possible. You can see how they are stretched along that single axis. That's not what we want. To remedy this, we need to right click and we want to choose to global space. That will reset it to where everything is nice and uniform. So I'll turn wireframe off. Another thing we might want to do is extrude the text. So I'm going to choose this inset, and you'll notice if I try to do a global scale, that's not the kind of extrusion we want. Okay, we want it to extrude along the vertex normals. So I'm going to right click and choose extrude. You can actually go into the negative, and that's what we want to do here. I've already tested this previously, and so negative 0.2 is about right. And so that allows me to inset this a little bit more. Let's right click, and we want to focus on fill voids. So before you begin your export process, if you have a layer that's in voxel mode, I would highly suggest right clicking and choose fill voids, because sometimes when you are merging objects together, it can create pockets or voids inside the object. fill voids will make any voids inside an enclosed object completely solid. So let's now zoom in and say that we are working on our model. Rather than having to reach over into the Voxtree layer panel to make these modifications, we can stay right here at the center of our action, right click, and choose from the same list menu. Let's say I want to change the parent. I don't want this to be a child layer anymore. I can hover over change parent, then root. Now it's independent of every other layer. One last thing we might want to look at is we can save individual objects as a 3D coat file. So for example, if I created a number of different text objects, I could save each text out as a separate 3D coat file that way. And I can also save it with all of its child layers if I want with this option. And with that, we will conclude this overview of the right-click menu in the Voxtree layer panel of 3DC printing. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.